I'm Tips and you are watching Game Dev Bits. Before we begin, I'd like to thank my patrons without whom none of this would be possible. Here they are. Thank you so much everyone, it means the world to me. And now without further ado, let's get into 3D Model 101. So today we're going to cover the basics of everything you need to know about 3D models. So first up we have vertices. Now a vertex is an imaginary point in 3D space that joins together two edges. Here on our cube you can see there's a vertex on each of these corners. If we select a couple of vertexes and move them, they'll take their edge along with them. Pretty self-explanatory. Next up we have polygons. A polygon is effectively a flat plane that joins together from 4 or more vertices. See, polygons, they can actually be rotated, scaled, etc., etc. A polygon defines the individual units that make up a 3D model. Now, most of the time when you're dealing with models, the terms quad and polygon will be used fairly interchangeably by most people. See here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 vertices, and the face that makes up between them is our quad, which is our polygon here. Now, in order to shade properly, a polygon needs to be planar. Now, what we mean by planar is effectively like a plane. So it can be rotated around. So if we select our polygon here, you can rotate a polygon to face whichever way you want, but it needs to form a flat plane on the new axis that it's rotated to so that it can light correctly. If we grab just a single vertex here and we move that down, you'll see that our polygon is now starting to be, it's shaded strangely because we've effectively put a fold down the middle. We select these opposing vertices. What we can do is we can connect them with a new edge, and now we've created two triangles that are both planar. So each of those triangles is now in its own little flat plane, and things can go back to being lit nice and evenly. So our next cab off the rank is UVW. UVW are the 3 letters after X, Y, and Z. And so we use those to refer to unwrapping a model. So let us bring in our UVW window. So our UVWs are always in a square. And what they effectively do is they allow you to unwrap this model that exists in our cube here, exists in 3D space. And it lets you put those pieces flat in here if you were laying out like a bearskin rug. So let's put ourselves in polygon mode. We have this here, these two faces have different images on them. If we select this face, we can actually see that here in the texture. So we've got those 3 dots. So if we actually move that onto the vent here, see that the texture updates, showing that one there. So what we can do is we can have a look. Here's where all of our faces are. So all of the faces of our cube are laid out inside the UV map. And you'll notice they are not the same size, even though they all are here. And that's a really critical feature for UV maps. So when you're unwrapping a model, you don't need the same surface area for everything. For example, if your character has a texture for a face, you may want significantly more detail for the face than you do for this patch on the side of them. So what you would do is scale some of these areas down, and then you can scale the face up. And inside the UV map, you can set those things as big as small as they need to be. So next up, what we need to talk about is pivot points. So you'll see Unity is set to pivot, and this is where our model rotates from. So if we scale or rotate, it'll all happen from this imaginary point in the center here. But if we go into vertex mode, select all of our vertices and move them up to here. And if we go back into object mode, our pivot point stays below. So we rotate the same, but if we rotate on this axis, we're now rotating away from where we were. And that is because the pivot point of our model is here. So frequently on a character, the pivot point will be here at the feet to enable you to position them on the ground, things like that. But when you're dealing with other models, it's important to know where the pivot point is so you know how the model is going to rotate. Because you don't want your model to go like this when you're expecting it to go like this. Now that is pivot points. So next up, let's talk about skinning. Now, skinning is the process by where you attach a model to a bone. So, in our character here, we have a lot of bones, and we have things like this spine bone. So now, if you notice, when we move and we rotate this spine bone, this area in the middle of the body is bending with the bone, but the legs and the feet are not, because the skinning dictates which vertices in a model are attached to the bone. So if we go all the way down to our hand, we rotate that, you can see here that as we turn out to this extreme, these vertex here, this on the edge of the cuff is barely moving, whereas this one is going all. We do that with a process called vertex weighting. So while we're attaching vertices to a bone, we can actually set a weight as to how much it moves. So you would say the end of the hand is weight 1, 0 to 1 is what the scale is. So for weight 1, it stretches all the way out here, but for this vertex, we'd say it's 0.1. So as we rotate that a lot, this area here only moves just a little bit. And good weight painting is the key to making models bend in a realistic way. Now, while we're on skeletons, that leads us to our next point, FK, or forward kinematics. So forward kinematics is nice and simple. Just says, see how we've got our chain here? Forward kinematics just says when you move a piece, everything below it on the chain moves with it. So when you rotate the shoulder, the upper arm, the elbow, the hand, the fingers, they all move with it. And that's how you can keep things moving in a nice and natural way. But you have to start from the top down. Because if we go to where the hand is and we rotate that, it has no effect on anything else that's above it. So forward kinematic only goes forwards in the chain. So the next feature we want to dig into is IK, or inverse kinematics. Now, inverse kinematics is the process of moving a limb and following backwards up the chain. So you can do things by setting something like a target or a look at, and it will actually follow along and it will move the rest of the body in order to make that movement possible. So to do that, let's switch to our game view, enter play mode, and you'll notice our guy, he's looking at this cube here. So let's grab our tracking cube. And if we move that up and down, his head tilts to look. He attempts to reach his hand for it. Now if we just split our game view so we can actually see our cube over here. Where are we? Grab our tracking cube. Alright, let's grab our guy. And let's go down to our position, wait and say. We want the hand to go all the way there. Alright, now if we grab our tracking cube again, he's actually going to do his best, you see? When we've got it out here, his hand is extended, and when we move it in close, he actually rotates his elbow to try and give us as realistic a view as possible. Now obviously there are limits to what it can do, but based on what we've got set up here, just moving this cube, the arm comes along to follow. So adding IK on top of your existing animations can turn things like a lean, a push, a hit, and make them feel a lot more natural. But for now, that's 3D Models 101. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll see you in the next video.